Hello and welcome. My name is Orla Ryan and I'm a tour guide in the Chester Beatty. Today we're going to take a look at 3 woodcuts from one of the artists in the collection, the German artist Albrecht Dürer. Born in 1471 in Nuremberg, South Germany, one of 18 children, Dürer was apprenticed to his father, who was a goldsmith, from age 11. Dürer's talent for drawing was obvious, and at 15 he began an apprenticeship in the workshop of Michel Volga, where he learned the craft of woodcutting. The output from this workshop at the time was primarily for the religious market: book illustrations, stained glass windows and altarpieces. Eventually setting up his own workshop in his hometown of Nuremberg, Dürer took commissions for portraits and biblical scenes, but it was through his woodcuts and engravings that he made his reputation. He was a businessman as well as an artist, producing works in a wide variety of themes, which are distributed all over Western Europe, bearing his monogram. Revenue from print sales were an important source of income for him. Many prints could be produced from one woodcut or plate. With literacy on the rise, the demand for books increased in turn, driving production and the requirement for illustrations and book design. Prints were portable, affordable. Most prints were made for the open market rather than for commissions, and impressions could be made quickly to meet demand. The majority of woodcuts at this time were for religious publications, Bibles and prayer books. One woodcut block could provide 100 copies, and as it was an inexpensive material, artists could experiment with the design, and this eventually led to a move away from religious themes to more secular imagery. Dürer was probably influenced by the Nuremberg Chronicle, a book commissioned by 2 wealthy Nuremberg merchants. It was published in 1493 and was famous for containing over 1,800 illustrations. Creating a woodcut is generally not as time-consuming as engravings or etchings, but a well-executed and durable image can be difficult to achieve. A physical process, care must be taken when carving. If the carving is too close or without a sufficient space or bevel, repeated printing can crack the wood and render parts of the image useless. It's not clear whether Dürer carved his own woodcuts after producing the initial image, or whether this was the work of a professional woodcutter. Dürer's work, The Apocalypse, based on the visions of St. John, was the first book produced by an artist solely and without commission. This was a series of 15 large format woodcuts, the image on the front of the page, the text on the back. Giving the image the same priority as the text was unusual, as before in printed Bibles the image was not given the same space as the text. Several demonic creatures are seen in this composition, St. Michael slaying the dragon. They are in battle with the Archangel Michael and other angels, who are all pictured in battle dress and armed with shields, swords, bows and arrows. Below this battle we see a village, oblivious to the war taking place in the heavens above them, an idyllic, peaceful hamlet. The work was published in 1498 in German and Latin, at a time when people were thinking of the end of the world at the turn of the century. This is Dürer's version of Doomsday. Plague, war and death are all represented in this book. By placing these visions of St. John in the countryside, a recognisable landscape, this made the stories realistic, possible even, to the viewers. He has also placed the image first and then the text, so readers could view the nightmare and then read. Dürer reversed the emphasis. The large size of the block gave him greater control over the detail in the woodcuts. Also from The Apocalypse, Dürer continued his theme of war, division and demonic creatures in this image, the Whore of Babylon. Taking his lead from the Book of Revelation, "And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of names of blasphemy, with 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was garbed in purple and scarlet, and gilded with gold, gems and pearls, and bearing a golden goblet in her hand, full of abominations." This vision is full of colour and horror, But the omission of colour does not impede Dürer's creation. It remains a packed and complex composition. In the right distance, we see Babylon, the place that embodies evil on earth, burns with huge explosions of flame and smoke. From the upper left, through a separation in the clouds, come the armies of heaven, led by the night called faithful and true. On the left, we see figures in contemporary dress, which would have added to the terror for the reader, the closeness of this horrific vision, the possibility of it for the viewer. The Life of the Virgin is the third book of large prints produced by Dürer, following the Large Passion and the Apocalypse. Life of the Virgin consists of 20 woodcuts, major events in the life of the Virgin. Dürer begins the Virgin's story with her parents, Anne and Joachim, and their initial childless marriage. The first 3 scenes contain their story. This is followed by 15 scenes beginning with Mary's birth and ending with her Assumption and Coronation. Throughout this book, Dürer showcased his ability as well as his interest in mathematics and perspective. We see complex staircases and architectural frames. He also cleverly included everyday items found in the households of his wealthy clientele. The book version, published in 1511, became a bestseller, with Latin text on the reverse of the images. The flight into Egypt, the 13th scene, was the result of a dream Joseph had which warned him to take his family and flee to Egypt. Dürer has crowned this scene with lush foliage, exotic trees, enclosing the composition and framing the 3 figures in the foreground. Joseph leads the donkey and the ox, turning towards Mary and the child as they approach a small bridge. Mary holds the child on her lap. He is turned away from us, the small shape of his head visible in the folds of her garment. This was considered innovative at the time, the part concealment of the child, which supports Dürer's approach to the composition, no religious iconography. Here is a family fleeing their home for the safety of a foreign land. Dürer was able to showcase his forte in producing foliage and plant life in this woodcut. Different tree types, from the twisted trunks on the right to the striking date palm on the left of the image. At the top right, surrounded by clouds, indicating another realm or world, a gathering of angels watch over the scene, the only hint of the sacred significance of this family and their journey. At the bottom left of the picture, we see Dürer's monogram, attached to a twig stemming from a low rock on which 2 salamanders lie. To the left of the monogram, and resting on a fence, a small bird, very similar to the one Dürer depicted a year before in Madonna on a Grassy Bank, a witness to this historical journey.